My name is Khalid bin Abdullah. I am 28 years old. And on June 14, 2019, I was supposed to marry my half-sister and continue a family curse that had destroyed 3 generations before me. But at 3:17 a.m. on the morning they planned to execute me for refusing, something happened in that underground cell that the Saudi royal family will never be able to explain. Something that their security cameras mysteriously failed to record. Something that left 4 armed guards unconscious and every locked door in the palace standing wide open. This is my testimony. And if you think your situation is impossible, I need you to hear every word of what Jesus did for a condemned prince in a windowless cell beneath one of the most powerful palaces in the Middle East. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. I was born into a life most people can only imagine in movies. Third in line to the Saudi throne. Palaces with over 200 rooms where I still got lost as a teenager. A garage filled with cars most people will never see in person. Bugattis, Ferraris, a custom Rolls-Royce with my initials embroidered in gold thread on the headrests. Private jets to anywhere in the world. Oxford education. Diplomatic immunity. Power that opened every door. Except the doors inside my own soul. Have you ever had everything the world says should make you happy, and still felt like you were suffocating? Have you ever smiled in photographs while screaming on the inside? That was my life. Golden cages are still cages. I grew up in the strictest form of Islam, Wahhabism, the ultra-conservative interpretation that governs Saudi Arabia with iron religious law. 5 prayers a day facing Mecca. Ramadan fasts so strict that not even saliva could be swallowed. Quran memorization from age 5. Friday sermons that lasted hours about the fires of hell awaiting anyone who strayed from the straight path. But here's what nobody tells you about growing up in a royal family. The rules that apply to common people don't always apply behind palace walls. There are secrets, traditions kept in whispers. Things that happen in the dark that would shock the religious police who patrol the streets arresting women for showing their ankles. I didn't know what those secrets were, but I felt them. I felt them in my mother's eyes, beautiful, decorated with the finest jewelry, but somehow empty. I felt them in the way certain aunts were never spoken about, just gone. She's resting, they would say. She's traveling. But I never saw them again. I felt them in my cousin Ahmed, who was kept in a separate wing of the palace, away from official photos, away from public life. Nobody ever explained why. And I felt them in my dreams. Since I was 7 years old, I had the same nightmare at least twice a week. I was walking through endless corridors, trying every door. Lock, lock, lock. Every single one. And behind one of those doors I could hear someone crying. Someone who sounded exactly like me. I was 27 when my father summoned me to his private majlis, the formal meeting room where important family decisions are made. The room smelled of expensive oud incense and Arabian coffee. Dark wood panels imported from Lebanon. Carpets that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. My father sat in his usual chair, flanked by my uncle and 2 senior religious advisors. Khalid, he said, his voice carrying that tone that meant this was not a discussion. It is time we spoke about your future. I thought he meant a governmental position. A diplomatic role. Perhaps a business venture. You will be married in 4 months, he continued. To Amira. Amira. My half-sister. Daughter of my father's second wife. We had grown up in different wings of the palace. I barely knew her beyond formal family gatherings. She was quiet. Reserved. Always watching with eyes that seemed to carry secrets too heavy for someone so young. Father, This is our tradition, Khalid. For generations, our family has preserved the purity of our bloodline this way. Your grandfather married his cousin. My uncle married his niece. This is how we keep the family strong. How we keep our secrets within our walls. How we maintain absolute control. The room tilted. My stomach turned to ice. You mean, this has happened before? Of course. You think you are special? You think you are the first? My uncle leaned forward. This is the way of royalty. European kings did it. Egyptian pharaohs did it. We do what is necessary to maintain power. Could you imagine sitting in that room hearing those words, and realizing that the nightmare you've been running from your whole life just became your mandatory reality? I tried to speak, to object, to say that this felt profoundly wrong in every fiber of my being. But in Saudi royal families you do not refuse the patriarch. You do not question. You do not disgrace the family with disobedience. The meeting ended. The date was set. June 14, 2019. I walked out of that room and threw up in the palace bathroom, my hands shaking against marble sinks imported from Italy. That night, I did something I had never dared to do before. I started searching. Not on my regular devices, those were monitored. But I had a second phone purchased in London that I used for, let's just say, for things I didn't want the family imam to know about. Normal things. Movies, music, the kind of content forbidden in our ultra-conservative household. I searched my family tree. I dug into old records, medical files I wasn't supposed to access. And I found the truth. Aunt Miriam, resting for 15 years in a psychiatric facility. Diagnosed with severe schizophrenia that developed after her arranged marriage to her uncle. Cousin Ahmed, born with genetic disorders directly linked to consanguineous marriage. That's why he was hidden. Uncle Samir, suicide at age 32. Official story, car accident. Real story, buried in documents. He drove his Mercedes into a wall at 140 miles per hour 3 months after being forced to marry his first cousin. 3 generations of this. 3 generations of genetic damage, mental illness, suicides, women driven mad, children born sick. All hidden behind palace walls. All buried under official family statements and religious justifications. I spent 3 months in a fog, praying 5 times a day to Allah, begging for a way out. Hearing nothing. Feeling nothing. Just emptiness where God was supposed to be. Then, in March 2019, 3 months before the wedding, I traveled to London for what was supposed to be routine business meetings. Oil investments. Political connections. The usual. I was staying at the Dorchester Hotel. Penthouse suite. And when I entered my room after a long day of meaningless negotiations, I saw something on the nightstand that should not have been there. A book. Leather-bound. Gold lettering. Holy Bible. Someone had left it. Probably the previous guest. Hotels in the West always have these. I should have thrown it away immediately. Possessing a Bible in Saudi Arabia is illegal. Even reading it could raise questions if discovered. But I was alone. Thousands of miles from the religious police. Thousands of miles from my family's watchful eyes. And I was desperate. Have you ever been so empty inside that you drink from any well, even one you've been taught is poisoned? I opened it. Started reading. The Gospel of Matthew. I expected to find the corrupted text I'd been warned about my entire life. The distorted message. The lies about Isa, Jesus, that Christians supposedly invented. Instead, I found a man who confronted religious hypocrites. Who overturned tables in the temple. Who called out leaders who used God's name to control and abuse people. Who touched the untouchable. Who freed the imprisoned. Who looked at broken people and said, "Neither do I condemn you." I read until 4 a.m. Then I read the next night. And the next. One passage kept stabbing into my chest like a blade made of light. Matthew chapter 11 verse 28. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Rest. I hadn't rested in 27 years. I downloaded a Bible app onto my encrypted phone. Started reading in secret every night. The Gospels obsessed me. This Jesus, he was nothing like the Isa I'd been taught about in Islam. This Jesus didn't just perform miracles as a prophet. He claimed to be God. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And for the first time in my life I felt something when I prayed. Not to Allah. To Jesus. I was terrified the first time I did it. I was in my London hotel room 2 weeks into my stay and I just spoke. Out loud. Like he was in the room. Jesus, if you are real, if you are really God, show me the truth about my family. Show me the way out. The room filled with peace. I cannot explain it any other way. Peace that didn't come from inside me because everything inside me was screaming chaos. Peace that came from outside. From beyond. From him. I returned to Saudi Arabia a different person. Externally, I attended Friday prayers. Performed my ablutions, the ritual washing of hands, face, and feet required before each of the 5 daily prayers. Nodded respectfully during sermons. But internally, I was having a conversion I couldn't tell a single soul about. I found an online group, carefully encrypted, accessible only through specific networks, of ex-Muslims who had converted to Christianity. Some still lived in Saudi Arabia, secret believers meeting in living rooms, praying in whispers, calling Jesus by code names in case anyone overheard. Others had fled to the West, risking everything for freedom. They taught me, discipled me, sent me resources. And one night, alone in my room 2 months before the wedding, I knelt on the floor and surrendered my life completely to Jesus Christ. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose from death. I give you my life, whatever that means. Even if it costs me everything. The weight that lifted off my shoulders that night, it was physical. Like chains I'd been carrying since birth just snapped. But I still had a wedding date. I still had a father who would not be refused. I still had a half-sister who was just as trapped as I was. I decided to talk to Amira. We met in one of the palace gardens, carefully away from security cameras. She was 23. Beautiful in that fragile way that comes from years of silent suffering. Her hands trembled when she poured the tea. "Amira," I said quietly, "do you want this marriage?" She looked up at me with eyes that contained more pain than I had ever seen. "Does it matter what I want?" "It matters to me." She was silent for a long time. Then, "I have dreams, Khalid. For the past year I've had the same dream. A man in white appears in my room. He never says his name. But he tells me, 'You don't have to do this. There is another way.'" My heart stopped. "What does this man look like?" She described him. The kindness in his eyes. The scars on his hands. The overwhelming love that radiates from him. She had been seeing Jesus. She didn't even know who he was. But he had been visiting her in dreams. I pulled out my phone. Showed her a picture. "Is this him?" It was a classic painting of Jesus. The Sacred Heart. She gasped. Covered her mouth. "That's him. That's the man." "Who is he?" "His name is Jesus Christ. And Amira, he's been calling you." That afternoon, hidden in the garden, I led my half-sister to Jesus. She wept. She prayed. She gave her life to the only one who could save her from the nightmare our family had planned for us. "What do we do?" she whispered. "I don't know," I admitted. "But we trust him. We follow Jesus. And we do not go through with this wedding, no matter what it costs us." Could you make that decision? Could you choose Jesus over your family, your wealth, your safety, your very life? We tried to be careful. But in Saudi Arabia, especially in royal circles, there is no such thing as private. There is always someone watching. Always someone listening. 1 week before the wedding, I was in my room when 6 security officers entered without knocking. Behind them, the head of internal family security. "Prince Khalid, you are to come with us immediately." They escorted me to a wing of the palace I had never been to. Underground. Cold. The walls were thick concrete. The doors were steel. My father was waiting. My uncle. 3 religious leaders. And a laptop displaying screenshots of my encrypted chats with the Christian group. Pages of the Bible downloaded on my phone. Video footage of my conversations with Amira in the garden. "Explain this." My father's voice was ice. I could have lied. I could have said I was researching Christianity to better debate against it. I could have begged for mercy and renounced everything. But I had made a promise to Jesus. And I would not break it. "I am a follower of Jesus Christ," I said clearly. "And I will not marry Amira. I will not perpetuate this family curse." The room exploded. Shouting. Accusations. Quranic verses thrown at me like weapons. My father's face turned purple with rage. "You bring shame upon our bloodline. You spit on our heritage. You commit apostasy, murtad, which is punishable by death." "Then execute me," I said. "But I will not deny Jesus Christ." Where did those words come from? Not from me. From him. From the Holy Spirit speaking through a terrified 28-year-old who was shaking so hard his teeth chattered. They stripped me of my title, my passport, my access to family accounts, my phone, my watch, everything. They dragged me to a cell 3 levels underground. Solid steel door. No windows. A thin mat on concrete. A hole in the floor for a toilet. A single LED light that never turned off. I learned later that Amira was also arrested. Charged with complicity because she knew about my conversion and didn't report me. The trial, if you can call it that, happened 1 week later. It was conducted in secret. The Saudi royal family does not air its scandals publicly. A panel of senior religious leaders. Family patriarchs. Legal advisors who specialized in Sharia law. The charge, apostasy. Leaving Islam for another religion. The sentence, death by beheading. Let me tell you what I learned in that cell, in that impossible situation, in that moment when there was no human way out. The curse of my family wasn't genetic. It was spiritual. Generations of secrecy, shame, abuse, and control, all of it was demonic bondage dressed up as tradition. It was a system designed to kill, steal, and destroy. And it did for decades. But Jesus is the curse breaker. He didn't just free me from a cell. He freed me from generational chains. He freed me from a religion that offered me rituals but no relationship, rules but no rest, fear but no love. And he can do the same for you. Maybe you're not in a literal prison cell. But what prison are you in? Is it addiction? Is it a toxic relationship you can't seem to leave? Is it shame from your past that whispers you'll never be good enough? Is it a religion that gives you 1,000 rules but no peace? Is it fear of what people will think if you follow Jesus? Let me ask you this: what does it profit you to gain the whole world, or keep your comfortable life, but lose your soul? I was third in line to the Saudi throne. I had billions of dollars at my fingertips. I had power, privilege, prestige. And I would choose Jesus in that cell every single time. Because everything I lost was worthless compared to what I gained. I gained a father who actually loves me. I gained freedom. I gained purpose. I gained eternal life. And I gained the privilege of being persecuted for his name. If Jesus can free a Saudi prince from an underground execution cell, he can handle whatever impossible situation you're facing today. If he can open electronically locked steel doors, he can open the doors you think are permanently closed in your life. If he can put 4 guards into supernatural sleep, he can deal with whoever or whatever is standing between you and freedom. If he can cause a sandstorm in the desert to provide cover, he can move heaven and earth for you. The question is not whether Jesus can save you. The question is whether you're willing to surrender to him, completely, totally, regardless of the cost. Because I'll be honest with you, following Jesus cost me everything I had. My family disowned me. My country wants me dead. I can never go home. I live in hiding. Some people call me a traitor. But I've never been more free. I've never been more alive. I've never been more certain that I made the right choice. And if you're hearing this story and something inside you is stirring, if you feel that pull toward Jesus that you've been trying to ignore, please don't wait until you're in a prison cell facing execution to surrender to him. He's calling you right now. The same way he called me. The same way he called Amira. The same way he's calling millions of Muslims across the Middle East through dreams and visions and testimonies like this one. His arms are open. His grace is sufficient. His power is unlimited. All you have to do is say yes. Come to Jesus, all who are weary and burdened, and he will give you rest. The curse over your life, whatever it is, can be broken today. Right now. In this moment. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And he's been waiting for you.